Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. Today you join me on a sultry September evening and I'm at what is arguably one of the country's most famous fishing lakes. Certainly if you follow your records, record fish that is, and certainly if you like catching crucian carp. There are species of fish that I seldom came across when I was growing up in Sheffield. But since moving to Surrey in my mid-20s, I discovered quite a few lakes around the Woking and Guildford area containing these beautiful fish. One such destination is Marsh Farm Fishery near Godalming, and you may have seen one or two videos on the channel with me enjoying some great crucian and tench sport on the day ticket lakes there. But just over the way from those lakes is Johnson's Lake, and several record crucians have come from this beautiful venue. 21 acres. I've just had a walk round and it's surrounded by woodland, but it's a really open expanse of water, nice warm wind on it today, and there's one island. I'm told it's very shallow, and certainly plumbing up where I am about to fish today, it really is shallow, 2 foot at best, more like a 1.5 foot on the waggler line. I was advised one good spot is along the railway bank near a sluice gate, but it was really popular round there when I had a look. About a dozen anglers fishing, all with 2 rods, not big heavy carp gear, but clearly targeting the crucians, and some nice chaps I had a chat with said they'd had a few. Nothing spectacular, but one of them said an upper 3-pounder had come out yesterday, and the lake is known to hold 4 pounds plus fish, record breakers, as well as big carp, tench, and I've been tipped off that there are also some really nice rudd and roach in here, and that's one of the ways I love to fish, is come to venues that are known really for big specimen fish of a certain species, quite often carp, but get amongst the silvers that are often neglected on such venues. So I'm going to be fishing 2 rods myself, but one at a time. I'm going to start on the waggler, just a couple of rod lengths out. It's so shallow out there that I've just had a couple of swans come and clear me out of all the bait I'd fed there, the hemp, the castor, but they seem to have had the fill and moved on. So I'm going to start fresh on the waggler with a bit of corn on the hook if there are too many small fish around. I've been warned there are plenty of small fish as well as the biggies. And then I spent 5 minutes baiting up on a feeder line as well, maybe 20-25 yards out, and that's a stinky oily ground bait, plenty of fish meal, some hemp oil, some pellet and a few grains of corn in there, and I'm going to let that line settle, and if we're not having much joy on the waggler, I can go out there and give it a go later on. It's a beautiful sky, late afternoon. I've got a few hours to fish, which is less than ideal on a new venue, but hopefully the right time of day to give it a go. I believe it used to be called Enton Lake or Enton Lakes. I think there's a pair. And there used to be trout fisheries, or this lake used to be a trout fishery. But that was a long time ago, and I believe the water was acquired by Godalming Angling Society, of which I became a very happy member earlier this year, back in the 1980s. In fact, I think the lake became known as Johnson's after one of the committee members, a fishery manager who was instrumental in getting that deal over the line, and it's been known as Johnson's ever since. And I believe he's sadly passed, but it's become really famous for its coarse fish rather than trout, I'm glad to say. And I can't quite believe this is the first time I'm fishing a stillwater in months. Trying to think back to when it would have last been, and I think it was Certainly one of the sessions that I enjoyed in the early summer would have been at another Godalming Angling Society water, Wood Lake in Busbridge. Some fantastic tench fishing there as well. Had a beautiful first session on there back in April with the mist coming off the water at about 4 or 5 in the morning. But since the start of the river season, you've seen, hopefully if you've been following the channel, how much river fishing I've done everywhere, from the local River Wey to the Trent, the Wye for the first time. I've been on the Hampshire Avon. Really lucky to experience so much fantastic river sport, and although it has been a hard summer for the rivers with so little rain and such hot weather most of the time, I've got some very special memories already from this season. But I do love my stillwater fishing as well, and apart from the few matches that I've fished up in Sheffield or near Sheffield over the summer, I've not really done enough of it. I mean, I'm 15 minutes away from this legendary fishing venue, so it's about time I came and gave it a go. And whether I catch or not, it's really fantastic to tick it off, as it were. I'm sure it's a venue that I'll be coming back to plenty. So I think it's about time I got fishing. Very limited time this evening, especially after having had a look round and waited for those swans to have their tea. Here comes one of the trains, and that was an instant bite. Well, it's a tiddler, but it's the target species. Well, it's a silverfish. Little roach on the first cast, and that's very encouraging. I'm only fishing a couple of casters to begin, just to feel my way in. If there are too many tiddlers, say I can move to bigger baits. I've got tares, corn, a bit of bread, all known roach and rudd catchers. It's the rudd in particular, I've told, can really provide some hectic sport here if you get the right swim on the right day. Wow, that dipped pretty quickly as well. I was warned there was quite a bit of tow on this lake whenever there's any amount of wind, and it certainly seemed to be the case when I was shotting up. I've had to undershot the waggler and then have a number 6, or actually a couple of number 6s on the deck as telltale shot, just to hold the rig in place. So there's every chance I'll see some lift bites as well as traditional sail away bites like that. But yeah, it's 1.5 foot at most, and I think the combination of the fact I'm opposite where most of the other anglers are, and the surprisingly shallow depth here, has got me feeling fairly cautious about my chances on this first trip. I'm not used to fishing such shallow water, but I know there's no reason the fish won't be there, especially when it's so mild and there's been a bit of a breeze on it all day. That just seems to be dying down a bit at the moment. Only a couple of gram insert waggler, a Drennan crystal waggler, so it should be not too intrusive in such shallow water. 13-foot match rod, and I've got a 4-pound main line down to a 3-pound hook length. I mean, that's quite heavy for roach and rudd, but I wouldn't mind if I hook into a crucian or tench, of course. But this is another example, along with some of those rivers that I talked about earlier, of where a combination of this channel, the magic of fishing, and the kids getting older. Oh God, the swans are back. The kids getting older, work easing off a little bit certainly compared to the majority of my career, when I used to regularly lose evenings, weekends, holidays. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to stop float fishing again here shortly. That's a shame. I've had lots of tips off a mate about this venue, but he didn't tell me it was impossible to feed without swans coming to clear it out. I do hope they're going to move on, because time is short, but patience is a virtue. If they really are settled in and determined to come back every time I attempt to feed this swim up, we'll have to go on the feeder, which another good friend of mine said is actually the best approach, the usual approach on Johnson's. Set up with a method feeder, bait spike, so I can put on a couple of grains of corn or soft pellet. And if this waggler swim is not going to be possible, it'd be a real shame if so, we'll have to go on the feeder and see whether we can manage anything early on, despite the fact I did put a few feederfuls out there already. But yeah, I was saying this is another little pilgrimage for me. What I've discovered since getting some of my own time back is lots of the places that I've grown up reading about in Angling Times or Angler's Mail, and obviously online since the dawn of the internet. Lots of the famous places that I've dreamt about over the years are accessible, whether it's through a club like Johnson's, or day tickets somewhere like Cromwell Weir, where I got to fish this winter for barbel. The Hampshire Avon, the bridge pool on the Hampshire Avon, where me and my mate Andy were lucky enough to fish just over a year ago. These are all venues that are steeped in history, and certainly, I've daydreamed about them, but never really believed that I would get to fish them. And it's through research and a little bit of effort, talking to local tackle shops, talking to fellow anglers, searching online, that you get to understand how these places are accessible. And yeah, I just hope Johnson's will become just as special to me as some of the other places I've got to know since launching the channel a couple of years ago. Well, I love all forms of wildlife, you know me, but those pesky swans are forcing an early change in tactics, and until they clear off and find a better feeding ground, I'm going to have to go on the feeder, which again is not the end of the world. It's just not how I envisaged feeling my way into a new venue. There we go, a couple of grains of corn. So as the sun peeps out from behind a cloud, let's give feeder a go. And I may risk putting some feed out over the waggler line in the meantime. But if I can get a few fish going on any method on a first visit to such a fabled venue as this, I'll be more than happy. Just sink that line a bit more. I can see by the angle the line's going in off the tip. It's still incredibly shallow out there. Can't be more than a couple of foot. This is one of the exciting things but also daunting things about fishing a brand new venue. You've no idea when it comes to swim choice other than the advice I've been given on a few potential hot spots, of which this was one on its day. But you've no idea what to expect in terms of bites, what the going baits are. It does have a slight feel of Frensham Ponds, which I've fished there once, one of the fantastic waters run by Godalming Angling Society, which I also joined a year or two ago now. That's a big open wild water, even the little pond. Had some tench out of there on the feeder. I've not managed to fish there either since. It's on my list, folks. I just don't have enough time in the day, or week, or month, or year. But I do try and bring you as much variety as possible. And let's get a few more casters out on the waggler line, just in case that becomes an option again. Lovely now the sun's come out. I have to remind myself the days are starting to get shorter, and certainly on the float I think I'll be struggling to fish well beyond 8 now. Would you believe it, folks? The swans are back. Barely been gone 10 minutes and I'd only fed a bit of hemp, a few tares. Trying to go down the less visual route, but they're not daft. And it looks like, unfortunately, my dreams of float fishing this venue, certainly for today, trying to get amongst the rod, the big rod that way, is pretty much out the window unless they move to another part of the lake. I'm going to have to stop feeding, of course, and see whether that makes any difference, but I think they know they're onto a good thing now, so it's going to be a feeder session. But like I say, that was really the way I was advised to fish it by one of my mates who knows this venue well. So let's see whether we can conjure anything up on the tip. Oh, that is a bite on the tip. Hey, it's a tiddler, but it's a fish. And he whipped the tip right round. What have we got? One of the silvers. Yay! Just about worth a net, that, I think. Well, he may not be specimen size, but that's a lovely roach. First proper fish from Johnson's, and I'm quite happy with that. Let's get back out, see if there are any more. And that was after switching from double corn to a much smaller baits to 6mm bright orange pellet, a wafter. The wind really has died this evening. Almost flat calm across the lake now. And the sun is already dipping below the tree line over in the west. So maybe we'll have a bit of action in the last hour or so. But it's nice to get off the mark on a new venue. Oh, there's another touch. Is it going to go? Yeah. Oh, missed it again. Missed that, but very next chuck, another confident jaggy bite. I wonder if a shoal may have turned up. That would be nice. A shoal of roach rather than just a one-off. We will see, but I went from 2 or 3 chucks on the corn with no real bites, and then a long wait on the pellet to almost, I wouldn't say instant, but within a minute or two that bite. So you never know, conditions, light levels could just be turning in our favour. Just sink that line. So much bird life. It's fantastic. Aside from the swans. Oh yes, that's better. Oh, I expected that to keep going. There's definitely more activity as the light's falling, just as you might expect. Just be nice if I can land 1 or 2 more before darkness falls. I'd say half an hour, 45 minutes for that to happen. The sun is well below the trees now, possibly below the horizon, and the light is going fast. Come on, let's have 1 or 2 more. Ooh. Sounded much louder, but that was actually a kingfisher going in. And there he is, look, top left, perched on one of the branches without any leaves. He's a big boy. Fantastic sight in the growing gloom. He knows where the fish are. well, that was a bit of magic all on its own. And as we so often say in the community on the magic of fishing, it's not all about catching fish. And that moment alone, seeing the kingfisher plummet in from the top of that willow and come back up with a small fish, that'll make this evening memorable enough for me. I would like to see that tip whip round one more time, get my first Johnson's crucian or even a little green tench, but things have quietened down again, and I'm not sure we're going to add to that earlier roach, but it's still been a very memorable first visit. If you're tuning into this video for fishing tips on Johnson's, maybe you're a fellow member or considering joining the club, I'm afraid that's not been what this video's turned out to be. That's what you'd expect on a first visit, just a few hours. I hope you've still got a real sense of the place, what it looks like, and a little bit of what it feels like. It's a really special lake without factoring in the specimen fish and the record-breaking fish. It won't be that long until the geese are flying south. Well folks, it's not just me reaching for the lights, head torch and the light on the camera. It's really quite gloomy now. One or two bats starting to wheel overhead, and we're near enough in the dark. You lose the light really quickly as we head into autumn, and I can see one or two head torches popping on around the lake. Great atmosphere, although the trains rumbling past have been fully lit as well, and it's just been a reminder to me that my time was running out. That last or second fish wasn't to be. It's been a tough session, I can't deny it, and a bit frustrating that I couldn't do the kind of fishing that I came here to do, which was fish the waggler for quality silvers. I'm sure they're out there. My information sources are rock solid. But whether it was the swim choice today, the swans getting in the way, or just the way the lake was fishing, we won't know. I've not heard a lot of fish being caught, but many are sitting it out, as I say, either for the big carp or for the crucians. I'd love to get back here and try a different swim, maybe get to give the waggler a go. Whether that'll be this autumn or I'll have to wait till next spring or summer, we'll have to see. Lots of plans as always to bring you folks plenty of variety, but I hope you'll agree it's still been a memorable session despite the lack of fish action. You stay safe, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon on the bank.